Okay, so we just finished. Chuck here is telling us a little bit about his symptoms after taking, it sounds like 20 pills of Cipro. He's
It
talking
was
about
26.
20. Oh, because you took 2 a day, right?
Yeah,
So
20.
26 pills of Cipro, and sounds like there's an awful lot of in your face symptoms. Mine were more in my arms and legs, but you had a lot in your face, but then also fatigue,
Yeah.
arms, legs. When did you realize that this was due to the Cipro? Like, when did you turn to the internet, or did a doctor tell you? And first I want to say too, the doctor should have never prescribed the Cipro in the first place, because and this was what, 2020? By 2020,
Yeah.
there are like several black box warnings on the medication, and the FDA has come out and said that it should not be used for things like sinus infections, that there are much safer antibiotics to use, and the fluoroquinolone antibiotics should never be prescribed as a first line defense of a sinus infection. So this doctor really made a mistake in it. In my experience, I would say only about 50% of the doctors are very well aware and won't prescribe it, but the other 50% don't seem to know. So sorry, my question, I guess, is when did you put together that some of this was due to the Cipro?
Literally 3 months later. Um, I went on a spiral just downhill, losing, my ability to walk. So I had no concentration, uh, panic attacks, were going throughout the weeks. Then one day I'm just sitting back, and my wife is asking, what did we do different that week? Did we eat out somewhere? Maybe we got food poisoning. So my wife just comes up, she goes, the only thing you did different that week was take an antibiotic. And when she told me that went in one ear and out the other, I'm like, yeah, but that ain't gonna do that. And she says, I mean, it don't hurt to look it up. And she told me that in the daytime. I went all day, I didn't listen to it, never looked it up. Here I was on the couch that night. Again, this sad to say, this was now like my new life, just laying on the couch every day. Um, so I had nothing to do. I Googled it, looked it up. When I tell you, talk about a panic attack, when I seen what I seen,
Yeah,
oh, I'll tell you,
I
I
know.
was, my
I
jaw,
know the
you know?
I know the feeling. Those internet sites are scary, but they were also right. I mean, the very first internet set that I saw said, if you've taken this antibiotic and you have these symptoms, they're like, don't bother going to a doctor. They're not going to be able to help you. And there's nothing you can do about it, which is not completely true. I want to correct that. But that was the very first thing I saw. And I just started hyperventilating. So I would imagine did you feel something similar when you found that site? Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw people saying that they had ALS symptoms, MS symptoms, and I'm like, wow, this is scary because my legs are not able to move. They're not coordinating right. My face at times felt like it was just going to go out of control when I talked. And I'm like, these are like symptoms that I honestly said to myself, like, I don't know what cancer is like, I said, but I rather have cancer than to go through what I'm going through. I said, you
yeah.
know, because I never heard nobody talk about these type of symptoms with cancer.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, I mean, cancer is a very broad thing, and I hate comparing one thing to another because everybody's experience is different. But I can, at least in my own life, say I had stage 1 breast cancer, which is, not, it was stage 1. So it was not particularly life threatening. I knew I was going to survive, but yet I got so much sympathy and from friends and family. And this was 1,000 times harder, and I got very little sympathy from people, right? Because cancer, they know what it is. It sounds serious. But like that, for me, like the cancer, I knew what to do, right? I knew which doctor to go to. I knew what the treatment plan, I knew what my prognosis was, and it was very good. You have no answers. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to spend the rest of your life on a couch, not being able to walk? I couldn't walk, or my arms, it was hard to text or type. And that's, these days is like, it's used. I couldn't even hold a book. Were you able to work in this period of time?
Fortunately, yeah, because I've been a DoorDash driver for 2 years. So literally doing it as a living. So it was tough going out. It wasn't tough to drive, but the paranoia that associated, with this was just like all day. That's all I would think is about. I'm dying. Something's happening to me. And the fear of like, am I gonna be disabled? And is my wife gonna have to like take care of me? That's all that went through my mind on a daily basis. Like, you know, fortunately, that's I was working because I was a laborer my whole life until getting into driving for a living. If
What would
not
you
for
say
that,
the, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, no,
what would
go
you
ahead.
say the worst symptom was out of all the symptoms? What was the worst?
The worst symptom, and it's still the worst to this day, is when the I call it sensory neuropathy, comes to the face. Um, in the beginning, the legs matched it because my legs, when I would walk, I had my wife taking videos of me, pictures, because I said, am I walking straight? And she's like, yeah, you are. But when I would walk straight, it felt like my legs were doing like a little curve,
Yeah.
like as if I was walking bow-legged or something. And she said, no, you're walking fine. Walking up steps was almost impossible. I mean, my wife would have to push my
Me,
legs up just to
me
get
too.
me up. Um,
Me too. Did you
well,
ever go back to the doctor who prescribed the medication and tell him
after I found out, yeah, that was an
what?
ugly situation when I went back to him with that, because I was not in you know, not in a good state of mind, and I literally blew my top on him. Uh, of course, he denied it, and he said no. I said, listen, keep it up front with me, man. Have you ever heard anybody suffer from this before? Just tendon problems. People get achy
Yeah.
tendons here and there. I said, for how long? He said, the most I heard is a few days and then back to normal. And I
Did you
told him,
tell
dude,
him about the black box warnings? Did he know about those?
I told him
Um,
about that. He goes, is literally, this was his response. I guess he thought I was dumb. I don't know. But he goes, no, I don't do all that stuff. He's like, that stuff that's on the internet. I said, no, 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 that stuff that was put on by the
from,
FDA.
yeah,
I
it's the
said, this is not a
FDA.
conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
Um,
it is from the FDA for sure. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad because I know what you went through because that was the worst year of my life, that first year. But let's turn because you have a pretty in my opinion, somewhat of a success story. So you're feeling a lot better today, right? What
yeah.
is improved? What has gotten better? To give people
Uh,
some watching this some hope out here because people do get better. It's an awful experience, but most everyone does get better. So how are you doing now?
yeah. And I want to throw this out there too. If you're thinking like it's over for you and you're done, I was there too. I said, there's no way I'm getting better from this. But you do get better. You're right, Jane. You get better. Um, my walking I'm able to walk up steps again, huge flights. I get some
Great.
uncomfortable, while I'm going up there, but sometimes, but the improvement is significant to where I was. Uh, the anxiety is like almost gone.
That's
I get it
great.
every now and then. Like I went to a boxing event recently, and it was my first event since being flocks, and there was a lot of people there, and I started getting symptoms, flaring up, and but after my wife was telling me breathe, calm down, I started and I made it. I thought I was gonna make it through the whole event. I thought I was gonna have to leave, but I made it through the whole event. Not only that, I was cheering on and living my life, in the
That's
event.
good.
So you get better, you get better.
Yeah.
Uh, Currently, what I'm dealing with the most right now, it comes and goes. It's not an everyday thing, but it's some facial neuropathy, and it's when it comes, I don't like it, and I
Yeah.
let it beat me more than it should because I'm always thinking stroke symptoms.
Yeah.
I'm being honest. That's my
Yeah.
only
But
thing
you
I
got to
think.
focus on what's getting better and not not what isn't. And just think about where you
Yeah,
were 6 months ago and how much better you are. Because I talked to you, I think, 6 months ago, and you're doing so much better. And
Yeah.
I think my guess is you'll make a full recovery. I am a bit older than you, so I'm not sure. I might be stuck with the 75 to 80%. I'm still getting a lot of tightness in my neck and legs. But in the beginning, I could barely like type an email or walk across my apartment or hold the book. And now I can. So there is hope. Did any doctor ever come up with anything? No, right? I think you told me that no doctors had any like official diagnosis.
Not one, only fluoroquinolone specialist, they said, that deals with fluoroquinolone toxicity, that I spoken to, and told me that it's all in the gut, a gut issue. I I'm halfway with that, Jane. Like, I don't, I don't want to give nobody no, you know, not give them hope, or, but maybe it
Yeah.
is. So who, but I'm not all the way with that. It's in the gut. Um, because
Yeah.
I've stories of, yeah,
I have mixed feelings about the fluoroquinolone websites and the fluoroquinolone doctors. And on one hand, it's really empowering to see that other people have gotten this and get better. There's one site that I think is great, Floxy Hope, which has your story on it because it gives you hope. But some of and this is just my opinion, everyone has a different opinion. I'm not a doctor, so it doesn't mean I'm right. But one of the things that bothers me about the fluoroquinolone sites and doctors is they kind of treat it like we all have the same thing, right? Like it's like take magnesium or get stem cells, or like you need to do. And my belief is that we all might have something different. My belief is that you might have something underlying. And in my case, I had food poisoning. I had salmonella and campylobacter, and I had pre-existing autoimmune diseases. So but I was fine. I was completely in remission. And when I took the Levaquin, I think it set all of that other stuff off. Whereas for other people, it could be a magnesium deficiency or other, right? So it's like, it's
yeah,
different. So when these sites say that there's one thing that's the answer, and I don't agree with it. And when they say that no doctor can help you, I think it depends on what you have. So, right,
yeah,
like I think my first advice to people going through this, because this video, I'm hoping, people who are first experiencing this are watching. My first advice is try the regular doctors because they're covered by insurance, right? They might be able to find if it is a magnesium deficiency, they can now test for that. Could be iron deficiency, hormones like testosterone, estrogen, uh, they can test for those things. So first see if it's something that a medical doctor can fix. Then I also think time, like a lot of people get better just in time, 6 months to a year. I did get stem cells, but I waited a full year because I heard a lot of people get better within that year. So why get treated before that
yeah,
year? So if you can find a regular MD to take you seriously, I think that's the best bet. If it's been several
mhm,
years, you're not getting any help, then yeah, these specialists, fluoroquinolone specialists, unfortunately, they all charge a lot of money.
yeah,
And I think they really, really do help some people, but they don't have others because it depends on what you have, right? It
mhm,
depends on, stem cells are going to help with cartilage and tendon and a lot of other things. They might not really help with nerve damage. So the fact that the treatment is very similar for everybody
yeah,
scares me. So that's my advice. Go to a regular MD, make them do the most thorough testing you can. Wait some time before trying those fluoroquinolone specialists. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. I'm not a doctor, but I'd love to hear what you think about that. Um,
um, about the fluoroquinolone specialist, like,
yeah, like yeah, they've
uh, I think, testing goes a long way. And when I dealt with a fluoroquinolone specialist, and I'm not going to put that person's name out there, um, I wasn't given no testing, and I went on a magnesium kick, speak of magnesium, and I ended up getting a bout where I got really worse. Not to say there's
yeah,
anything against
yeah,
magnesium. Uh, and I started getting like really weird paralysis symptoms that were increasing in the
yeah,
arms. My breathing was getting like very shallow. So I did go to my regular MD, tested my magnesium, and I was overboard on magnesium, and I was suffering from
yeah.
magnesium toxicity now. And I had to
Wow.
bring that down.
Yeah,
And he said, luckily, I attacked that in time, because if I haven't, you can go into cardiac arrest from
Wow.
over of magnesium toxicity. And I was like, wow, no wonder why I was dealing with a lot of breathing issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And they also, those fluoroquinolones, they say things like no fluoride, no steroids, no, like they make these blanket rules that might, very much some people might have fluoride poisoning. That is 100% true. But in my case, it was my autoimmune diseases went overboard.
yeah,
And a lot of the sites are very anti-all medication. And I don't believe that. I think, I got on Cymbalta at the beginning of this to help
yeah,
with the pain and anxiety. And a lot of the websites were like, don't go near any pharmaceuticals. This is what caused it. And I'm like, no, a specific line of antibiotic caused this. And honestly, if I didn't get on the Cymbalta, I don't think I would have ever gotten my anxiety under control, and it helped with the pain. And now I've weaned off of it completely. So yes, I don't think you should take that lightly, that decision. But this absolute, they say absolutely no on those fluoroquinolone sites.
yeah,
I don't necessarily agree with the same thing. Like, so I avoided cortisone because they're all like, do not go near any steroids. And finally, 4 years later, I went to a doctor and he's like, you've got autoimmune disease. And I had that prior to fluoroquinolone. He's like, you got a lot of inflammation. Let me just give you one cortisone shot in your neck. And after 4 years, I was like, you know what? Just give it a try. And you know what? It helped. And I wish I had done it earlier. And those Foxy sites said, stay away from cortisone. I do think there's some research that shows if you take the cortisone and the fluoroquinolone at the same time, it is more likely to rupture your tendon. So that's
yeah,
bad, but it doesn't mean you can't take it 4 years later. So anyway, I'm not a doctor. All I'm saying is everything you read, take with a grain of salt, get
hmm,
many opinions. There's no absolutes. We all got different things. So like, if it's something that a regular MD can diagnose, I mean, a theory of mine is too, I have a disease called myasthenia gravis, which is an autoimmune disease that affects your muscles. And there's a black box warning on it saying you should not take this medication if you have myasthenia gravis. And my doctor forgot about my myasthenia gravis. I have a
yeah,
theory, like mild cases of that disease go undiagnosed. So I have a feeling that some people not, with these reactions might have had a mild case of myasthenia gravis that they didn't know about. And the fluoroquinolone,
yeah,
like, brought it out. And guess what? All the stem cells, all the fluoride, all the everything is not going to fix myasthenia gravis. So you need to get a regular MD to test you for everything. They still might not be able to help. That is true. In which case, the fluoroquinolone specialists, might be an option. Anyway, I talked way longer than I thought, but I just think it's important because there's so many absolutes on these websites.
no, you're right.
Um,
You're right.
like,
And
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 if
it's,
you think, oh, go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, you're right about that because the fluoroquinolone treatments can cause you a lot of money and sometimes not even get you where you want to be. You know,
Exactly.
that's that's eventually what happened to me. I noticed as I went on lesser supplements, and I don't recommend this. Do what works for you. But when I went on lesser supplements, I started getting better, which was odd.
Yeah. Because supplements, like again, maybe you have a mild case of myasthenia gravis. Supplements aren't going to help that.
Mhm.
So we talked a lot, and I want to wrap it up, but we talked a lot about what not to do. What words of hope do you have for someone going through this now about what to do? Any advice?
I mean, I know it's hard to say stay positive when you're going through this, but stay positive. One thing that helped me, I hope it can help other people, is I don't know how. We can call it, God, we can call it whatever, but I stayed busy through this all, and I don't know how I did that. In my most down point, when I barely could walk, I still stood busy. Uh, I still worked. I still moved around, though it was awful, but I did it. That helped me. Uh, everybody says this one, Jane. You said it to me. Everybody says stay off of the negative websites.
Yeah.
It brought me down a huge rabbit hole. And
Yep.
when I would these things and people saying you're never gonna heal, they never healed. Don't stew on that because that's gonna that's just gonna rip you apart.
Yep.
The quicker you get to thinking you are gonna heal, you start to focus on other things and you
Yep.
I guess it's like that natural reaction with anything. You just start forgetting about it, and time. You mentioned it best, Jane. Time.
Yeah,
Time just
time.
seems to do
And
something. You know?
almost everybody gets better. I mean, I think, I'm older, I'm 50, I had all these autoimmune diseases in the first place. So I was probably the least likely to get better, and yet I'm 75 to 80% better. Younger people who were previously healthy seem to get better within like 6 months, a year, maybe 18 months. So it's hard. It's a really rough year. Don't think about it think about it as one day at a time. What I tried to do in that first year where I was miserable, I couldn't even hold a book. I tried to find 3 moments of every day that brought me joy, whether it was like drinking a glass of iced tea or petting a dog or hugging my niece, focusing on the positive moments and stay off of the negative websites and stay on the Floxy Hope site, which your story is on, shows all the recovery stories because almost everybody, I've talked to so many people and they do recover. So that's where you got to keep your mindset and also reach out. I had literally 3 different people who had experienced it and recovered that I spoke to, who every time I panicked, they promised me I'd get better. When you panic, I promise you're going to get better. So reach out and find some support, but this is not permanent. So, I mean, I kind of want to end on that unless there's anything you want to add. I've seen how much you've improved. I think, in a couple more months, you're going to be 100% and have your life back. And you know what? We're never going to take things for granted again. Right?
Yes.
Any,
No, I
any final, any final words about any of that?
just keep hope alive. I mean, keep hope alive and stay positive. And I believe what you said, Jane. You are gonna get better. Um, I'm getting better, and I was there again. I was uh, to a point where if I could show you how I was walking, it was like inch of inch. I barely could even get a full leg out. And I thought all the thoughts. I thought wheelchair bound for the rest of my life. I thought all of that stuff. And here I am today. I'm able to play with my daughter again. Not the best. I'm back in the boxing gym training, fighters. Uh, I'm moving around. I'm on my legs more. I'm going up steps, jogging up steps sometimes. Um, it so you do get better. Absolutely.
That's amazing. I'm going to end on that because it just put a huge smile on my face. I told you you would get better and you are getting better. And that's just amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate it. Thank you.